Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the Sun transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. Now, on average, the Sun will transit a house for 30 days because the Sun moves approximately 1 degree per day, and the average house size is 30 degrees. However, if your house is a little bit smaller than 30 degrees or a little bit larger than 30 degrees, then it will stay in there a little bit shorter or a little bit longer depending on the size of that house. So anyway, people, the thing about this is that when you look at the Sun transiting the 12th house, it could be a very strong period of being more introverted and introspective than you ordinarily are. It could be a period where you might thrive and flourish in behind the scenes activities. It could be being a ghostwriter, for example, or it could be doing some kind of behind the scenes work, like even in movies as an isolated example, perhaps. Doing special effects. It could be something where you're just basically, you want the time by yourself, and you could really emphasize this very strongly, even if you are generally a very extroverted or a gregarious person. The Sun has made the transition from transiting the 11th house, which was about strong group activity and doing things with friends, connecting with acquaintances, and now it's at a time where you could be very strongly about solitude and seclusion. And this could be also a period where the Sun may shine some light on secret adversaries or enemies. They might come to light and could be exposed in this period, I believe, during this transit, if you do have any. Now, it could be also perhaps increased involvement with perhaps the spiritual and or the metaphysical during this period as well. This could be a period where you do, as far as introspection, it could be a period where you do a lot of self-analysis, a lot of reflecting, and you may be looking at things in your life which you think are not working for you, and then the things that are working. It's a lot of self-evaluation, and it may be a time where you discard or eradicate the things that generally are not working for you in your life. So it's also a period where you might be a little bit more of a dreamy period rather than actually doing things. It could be when the Sun transits one's 12th house, I believe it can be about diminished vitality, and if your energy might feel like it's dissipated or diminished to some degree when the Sun traverses your 12th house. And the thing about this too is, and now in some isolated cases, I think it could indicate a little more smaller chance than ordinarily, as far as maybe increased propensity for imprisonment or confinement. Just an increases by a little bit, I believe, because this is the 12th house of imprisonment. So that is something to consider as far as the 12th house, as the Sun transiting the 12th house in one's natal chart. Now, this could also be a period where really the 12th house is about endings, and this could be about the things that you feel are going to need to come to an end, to come to some culmination, and things. Really, when you look at this too, the Sun transiting one's 12th house. This is a period where you could be doing something where maybe inclined to be less, I guess you could say, you could be really more about helping those that are less fortunate than you, such as the impoverished, the oppressed, the homeless, the hungry. It could be a time of being very philanthropic and very charitable and doing things for those that don't always have that ability to do things for themselves. So I think that's something that may be emphasized during this period of the Sun transiting one's 12th house. This could be that period too where you might it's not even just about, as I stated before, about the energy might be dissipated a little. You might feel like your vitality might be diminished, but you might really feel like in a more relaxing mode. It might be a period of lethargy more. You may actually feel a little bit more lackadaisical, and you just might not really feel like really expending a lot of energy during the time that the sun traverses the 12th house. So those are some things to consider as far as this transit goes. And really, this time is that need where it's really can strongly be about alone time. And it's not to say that you're not going to talk to anybody or anything like that, but it could be a lot diminished communication with others because of this, because you might have that strong need to be by yourself during this transit. Now, it's also important to look at the position of the sun during this transit. Let's say, for example, that the sun is in Scorpio for either the majority or the whole time of the transit in your 12th house. Well, for that time being in Scorpio, it could indicate that maybe you might study maybe astrology extensively in privacy, or something connected with Scorpio like the occult, the supernatural. Maybe you might be delving into mysteries very strongly during this period by yourself, and really doing some strong, extensive research in solitude and seclusion. If it's in Libra, say, it could be where you might be devoting a lot of by yourself time to maybe artwork. And I'm saying if it's in Libra for majority or the whole period of the sun's transit in the 12th house, perhaps art endeavors, maybe something connected with relationships. It could be just finding that equilibrium and balance in your private life. Now, it's also important to look at the transits that take place during the time that the sun transits the 12th house, as this could impact and flavor the transit a little bit. Now, you can, if you have majority, let's say you have predominantly positive transits as far as transiting aspects, as far as the sun transiting aspects to your natal planets and major points in your chart, then this transit in the 12th house could go very well, and you might accomplish a lot behind closed doors, so to speak, and things connected with the 12th house, even if it's something matters connected with helping those less fortunate than you, etc. But if you have predominantly negative aspects to planets and important points in your chart from that transiting sun in your 12th, then they may not go quite as according to plan. Now, let's say, for example, you have the transiting sun in your natal 12th house making a square in conjunct or opposition aspect to your natal Pluto. Well, that could indicate you need to be careful perhaps at that short time when it makes that aspect to your natal Pluto of either obsessive or fixation-like behavior, and avoid maybe manipulation perhaps behind the scenes as well. Now, let's say that the transit sun makes a conjunction to your natal Saturn in your 12th house, and mine will in the fairly near future. This could indicate that you might get some emphasis on perhaps working laboriously in seclusion and doing things connected with responsibility, and might put a strong focus on things connected with your responsibilities. And really do, and it could really emphasize that. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the sun transiting the 12th house in a natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about the moon transiting the 1st house in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.